She thought she had the perfect setup, a quip masquerading as humor, a moment she believed would be her crowning glory in the annals of political commentary. But in just a heartbeat, Trump reversed the narrative, leaving her grappling to regain her footing. Live on television, the stage was set in a brightly lit studio in New York City. An audience hungry for spectacle filled the seats. Cameras were rolling, the air thick with anticipation, yet silent before the storm. At the sleek, modern desk sat Donald Trump, his demeanor calm, his face an unreadable mask. Opposite him was Jenna Carter, a liberal talk show host with a reputation for her razor-sharp jabs at conservative figures. Her career had been forged in the fire of such confrontations, baiting, provoking, and watching her guests squirm under the glare of the spotlight. Tonight she had a plan, a strategy she believed would be her masterstroke. The audience was buzzing, all eyes on the stage expecting fireworks. Trump's appearances were always a spectacle, and Carter knew just how to light the fuse. As the broadcast began, she launched her attack with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Donald, thanks for joining us," she said, her tone dripping with faux cordiality. Trump gave a slight nod, his hands resting on the desk. "Thank you for having me, Jenna. Let's see where this goes." The audience chuckled, but Carter didn't miss a beat. She was in her element with such exchanges. The initial conversation flowed predictably. Politics, policy, the usual back and forth. Carter fired her shots. Trump parried them with ease. The crowd was entertained, yet they awaited something more explosive, something personal, and Carter was ready to escalate. She leaned forward, a malicious glint in her eye, as if loading a cannon. She dropped her bomb with the pretense of humor. "Speaking of your family, Donald, how's Barron handling school? Must be tough with a dad who's, let's say, not exactly the role model for stability, huh?" The studio went silent, the air heavy with shock. The audience, previously animated, now sat in stunned silence. Even the camera operators, trained to stay neutral, paused for a moment. Jenna Carter maintained her smirk, but her body language betrayed a hint of nervousness. She had pushed too far and she knew it. Her words lingered, bold and harsh, an attack on a minor. It was an underhanded move, delivered with a smile. The insult was thinly veiled by humor, but the message was clear. She wasn't just looking for a reaction. She was provoking him, daring him to lose composure on national TV. The room was split between shock and stifled laughter, some in the audience showing their discomfort, others looking at each other in disbelief. Even those not in Trump's camp could see this was beyond political. It was personal, it was low. Trump didn't react immediately. His gaze was fixed on the table, his fingers drumming softly, the only sound in the now quiet studio. Carter shifted uncomfortably in her seat, not anticipating this silence. She expected anger, a counterattack, perhaps a snide remark, but not this. Then Trump looked up, his expression complex, a blend of annoyance, disbelief, and something else, perhaps calculation. His voice was composed as he spoke. "Let's clarify this, Jenna," he said, pausing to let his words sink in. "You're on national television, suggesting my son struggles because of me?" The word "suggesting" hung in the air, sharp and pointed. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Wow." Carter attempted a light-hearted response. "Come on, Donald, it's just a bit of fun. You know, light-hearted banter." Trump leaned in, his eyes locked with hers. "That's not banter, Jenna. That's a direct hit at my son, who's just a kid. But let's entertain the idea you meant it as a question." He gestured to the crowd. "Imagine if I asked the same about a child of a liberal politician. Imagine if I was sitting here and said, 'Hey, must be tough for your kid with a mom who's always attacking people instead of focusing on real issues?'" The audience murmured. Some nodded, others looked more attentive. Trump continued, "You'd have every major news outlet labeling me a monster before I even left the studio. The headlines would scream, and you'd lead the charge, wouldn't you?" Carter tried to speak, but words failed her. But Trump wasn't finished. "And you think this is what journalism has come to? Attacking children?" Carter blinked, visibly shaken for the first time. The control of the room had shifted. The audience was no longer on her side. Trump leaned back, his voice steady but firm. "Barron is just a kid, Jenna, trying to live a normal life despite all this. but you chose to drag him into the adult world of politics because you couldn't hit me where it counts. Carter tried to laugh it off. Oh, Donald, that's a bit dramatic, isn't it? Just trying to keep things light. But Trump cut her off. Light? There's nothing light about this, Jenna. You know it. The room was now his to command. The audience felt the shift. Power had changed hands. Carter attempted to steer the conversation back to politics, but Trump wasn't done. And let's talk about this so-called humor at the expense of children. Would you find it funny if I said the same about your kids? Or is it only okay when it's my son? Carter's face paled, her attempt at recovery faltering. The audience's reaction was mixed, but the tide had turned. Trump wasn't just defending, he was exposing the hypocrisy, turning the tables effectively. As the interview wrapped up, clips of this moment spread online like wildfire, igniting debates about the ethics of journalism, the boundaries of political discourse, and the sanctity of family privacy. Jenna Carter's attempt to score a point had backfired, turning her into the night's unexpected target of public scrutiny. Social media exploded with posts like, Jenna Carter's low blow backfires, Trump defends son in viral moment, and is this what political commentary has become? The conversation was no longer just about the interview. It had morphed into a broader discussion on ethics, family, and the line between personal and political critique. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, clips had amassed millions of views. Comment sections were ablaze with debates. Imagine if someone said that about Chelsea Clinton or Sasha and Malia Obama. The outrage would be deafening. Jenna thought she had Trump, but ended up exposing her own lack of ethics. This isn't just about Trump. It's about decency and where we draw the line in media. Liberal commentators tried to pivot, arguing that Trump was simply deflecting from real issues, but the narrative was hard to control. Even among those who opposed Trump, there was a consensus that targeting children was out of bounds. By the next day, headlines continued to dominate. Jenna Carter under fire for inappropriate question about Barron Trump. The New York Post. When did political discourse stoop so low? The Washington Times. The ethics of journalism. Where do we draw the line? The Atlantic sponsors of Carter's show began to feel the pressure, with emails and social media campaigns questioning their support for such journalism. Carter herself attempted damage control, posting on social media. Apologies if my comment was taken out of context. My intent was never to offend or belittle anyone, especially a child. My job is to ask tough questions, but I recognize this was inappropriate. However, the damage was done. The internet wasn't buying it, with responses like, taken out of context? We all heard you loud and clear. Tough questions don't include attacking kids. This was never about tough journalism. It was about a cheap shot. The network executives were in a frenzy, and by the end of the week, rumors circulated that Carter was on an extended vacation, a euphemism for what many believed was a suspension. Viewership for her show dipped, and advertisers pulled back, wary of association. In the following weeks, the incident became a case study in media ethics classes, discussions on late-night talk shows, and panels on news programs. It wasn't just about Trump or Carter anymore. It was about the state of political discourse, media responsibility, and the personal lives of public figures' families. Trump, on the other hand, had not just defended his son. He had sparked a conversation about decency in media, one that would linger long after the headlines faded. He didn't just win the argument, he forced a reflection on the standards of public discourse. And in doing so, he had turned an attack into a lesson, one that would be remembered for years to come. The ripple effect extended beyond the immediate backlash. Universities began using this incident in journalism courses, emphasizing the ethical responsibilities of media personnel. Public figures from across the political spectrum voiced their opinions, many condemning the use of children in political warfare. Books and articles were penned on the subject, with titles like The Line in the Sand, Ethics in Political Journalism, and When Personal Becomes Political, The Barron Trump Incident. The discourse evolved into a larger debate about the role of media in shaping public opinion and the moral obligations of those with influence over the public narrative. For Jenna Carter, the incident marked a turning point in her career. She was eventually reinstated, but with a significantly altered show format, focusing more on policy and less on personal attacks. She also started a series of public talks about the responsibilities of media in the age of digital virality. The Trump family, although often in the public eye, used this moment to advocate for the privacy and protection of children in politics. They established a fund for the support of children of public figures, aiming to provide them with a semblance of normalcy and protection from media scrutiny. This event underscored a shift in how political discourse was perceived, emphasizing the need for respect and boundaries. It became a catalyst for change, pushing the media to introspect on its role, influence, and the impact of its actions on individuals and society at large.